My name is Sam. I am the CEO of an automobile company. I was a very wealthy person. As the CEO of an automobile company, I enjoyed a quality time of life because I was very financially strong. I have every luxury of the world in my place. I don't have anyone in my family except my stepdad who lives in Los Angeles. I met Linda at a restaurant where I was invited to a birthday party. Linda was my friend's colleague. Her beauty struck me as soon as I saw her. She was very attractive with charming looks and a witty smile. She was intelligent and sharp-minded and looked stunning. When I tried to talk to her, I found her to be very friendly and she responded well to me. We used to spend time with each other. One of her finest qualities was that she had a good sense of humor. Her presence started to light up my days. She was the ideal girl for me because I always wanted a girl like her. She was a very smart girl and she had big dreams. Every day we met after work and after a few days, we began dating. Being with a very cute girl was a very magical experience for me. I was not expecting it. We used to spend time with each other. I remember that we became closer after a couple of months. She started to hang out with me on long drives and started to attend other events with me. I noticed that she showed a keen interest in my standards and luxury lifestyle. After a few days, I bought a brand new car, which was very expensive. I noticed that she was particularly interested in my brand new Range Rover Rogue. This was very evident from the start, and giving me the company was one of her top priorities. I had also spotted it, but I ignored it just because of her pleasant attitude and charming nature. Weeks turned into months and we started exclusively dating, but there were so many loops in our relationship. I couldn't pronounce it officially. I never hesitated to buy gifts, drive it, or invite her to elite class parties because she was a very satisfying person from very beginning. Yet now that I looked back, it was all that she wanted and I was just merely happening to oblige her. She was a very logical person. In hindsight, I had not imagined these skills would one day be used against me. Well, things progressed further and we even fell more in love with each other, or at least that was my impression at that time. Therefore, I intended to propose marriage to her. I invited her for a romantic dinner. In the evening, we were having a romantic dinner, so I ordered a delicious chocolate lava cake because Linda loves it. I asked the manager to hide the ring in the cake because I wanted to surprise my girlfriend with that. But she felt something sharp in her mouth as she began to eat, and it was a ring. She was amazed by it. When she saw it, it was a silver ring with a precious stone encrusted on it. I got on my knees and said, "You're the most beautiful person I have ever met. If I could spend the rest of my life with you, would you marry me?" She was shocked and amused at the same time. Without a second thought, she immediately agreed and expressed her love for me in an extremely emotional manner. She hugged me and said, "Yes, Sam, I will marry you." And the next thing I knew, we were planning our wedding. Things started to move fast and we were having a great time together, attending parties, traveling around, and having exotic locations at our disposal. I believe that when you have a lot of money, you can buy happiness as well as anything you desire. Does she really love me? That was a questionable thought I used to wonder about from time to time. But since life was so busy, I shrugged it off eventually. The other day, a friend of mine called me and asked me about my girlfriend. When I told him about Linda, his response was odd. "Are you sure?" he asked me. I said, "What do you mean? Is there any problem?" He said, "No, but do you have any idea about her past?" "Yes, she told me everything, but in fact, she lied to me. However, my friend told me that's fine if you don't mind, so it's okay, best of luck." Before that, Linda just told me that she was in a relationship for a few months, but that relationship was toxic for her, so she left her ex. I was satisfied because she informed me about her past, but alas, investigating her properly would prevent me from suffering pain in the future. I ignored that, and after a couple of weeks, we got married and we flew to Switzerland for our trip. It was a very memorable trip. Afterwards, we began a fine life full of life and excitement. With time, my love for Linda grew stronger. Linda loved spending money and buying expensive goods for herself. This was not a terrible thing. Linda changed her lifestyle. She joined a lot of prestigious clubs. We were living an ideal life, and we were very attached. It was her right because she was my wife, even though she resigned from her job. I appreciated that, and I can do anything for her to make her happy. After 4.5 months, one day my company suddenly closed because the owner became bankrupt, and unfortunately, I became jobless. Since my job was my biggest support, it was a big crisis for me. My savings were invested in the stock market for a few months ago. It supported my life, and suddenly, my job ended. I told Linda about the whole problem, but her reaction was weird. She did not even show any sort of support, just said everything would be fine. It was very strange for me because I expected something else from her. However, I ignored her behavior. I began looking for a job after that day. Every day I commuted to different companies and luxurious big hotels for my job. 2 weeks passed, but I did not get a job. I was very disappointed. On the other hand, Linda's behavior was getting bizarre with the passing days. Whenever I tried to talk to her, she always behaved badly and always blamed me for the crisis. I was very sad to hear all this from Linda. I argued with her about why she was behaving this way. She replied that you are not able to fulfill my basic needs. I was stunned by her behavior. When I asked if you have any idea why I am suffering, instead of giving me hopes, you are talking about your needs. I realized that day how selfish she was about her life. I was stunned by her behavior. She started spending a lot of time outside the house. I thought maybe she wanted to relax and seek a job. After 6 days, she changed her mood unexpectedly, but she was still not talking to me. Every morning, she gets married and spends the whole day out of the house. Initially, I thought she had gotten a job and I was delighted about it, but she did not inform me of it. One day, I received a call from my stepdad. He was coming to my house to meet me. I met him again after 3 years, and he told me he was here on business. I told him the whole story, and he advised me to apply for a hotel where a manager is required. I agreed with him and applied for it, and the next day I headed to the hotel for an interview. It was a luxurious hotel. During that time, I saw Linda with someone else in her car who was also heading to the same hotel. I followed her and they both walked to a room. It was astonishing to me that my wife was escorted to a room with someone else. I couldn't believe my eyes. My hotel staff called me because it was time for an interview and I had to leave. I got the job successfully, but still I was upset and broken because I saw my wife with someone else. That's why her behavior changed suddenly. I lost my job. My first thought was that this woman might be disturbed by all the loss. However, then I remembered how she always criticized me for not being able to fulfill her needs. While she was loving and caring when I had a job and financial support, she was selfish when I was jobless. At that time, I needed her support and I told her I realized she was selfish. I decided to catch her red-handed, but because I was now totally aware that she was with me just for money, when Linda's phone was charging, I saw a notification about a deposit in her account. For an unemployed woman, $10,000 was an enormous amount. I decided to hack her cell phone and found that she was dating 2 people at the same time and she was getting a lot of money from them. Now I understand that she had a lot of sugar daddies before marriage. That's why my friend was talking about her, but I ignored him. She had a lot of those kinds of relationship for money before I met her. My stepdad and I made a trap for her after discussing my entire scenario. Since Linda never met my stepfather, he was the ideal person to play the game to trap her. We decided that my father would play the role of her new sugar daddy. He started chatting with her and as expected, she responded well. My stepdad told her about his wealth and all his accomplishments. So they started meeting and they started to going to parties and tours every day. He bought her an expensive gift and all the other things I told my father to do because I wanted to give evidence against her. She was also hanging out with 2 other sugar daddies. I followed her every day and took pictures of her with them. As I asked her where she was all the day, she would argue that she didn't ask me, so how could I ask her, and then made lame excuses. Her sugar daddy always brings her to this particular hotel every time she visits. Whenever she visited, I stayed in the office, so I planned to set up spy cameras in her room to record evidence against her. She came into the room with him, and I was unable to describe it. It was breathtaking watching my wife with someone else. However, on the other hand, I had to face it because it was the truth. I documented their shameful acts. On the other day, I was extremely upset because even though she cheated on me, I loved her, and watching your own wife with someone was not easy. I controlled myself and told my stepdad to invite her to a couple more meetings, and then we would expose her. My dad did the same. The other day, I got a call from a person who told me that I had made a huge profit from the money I had invested in the stock market. I did not tell Linda about the investment. It was a huge opportunity for me to start my own company now that the table had turned. God gave me another chance in the face of this profit. Even though I had a job, I was still struggling with financial issues, so I was obviously a very wealthy person again. Obviously, I told Linda about this news just to see her reaction, and I knew what her reaction would be. She started to be polite with me and apologized to me while saying that I was very depressed about the whole problem. She also said that I applied for hundreds of jobs but did not get that. That was the reason my behavior was odd. I just smiled and said, "It's okay, Linda. I know everything." It was very difficult for me to control myself while tolerating her lies and hypocrisy. I was very astonished at how confident she was. She had no regrets about what she did, and now she's trying to be mine when I have everything again. However, I hated her face and I did not even want to spend a single second with her, but I had to expose her. Afterwards, Linda was very kind to me and always asked me why I was always busy. You did not care about me and blah blah. Her goal was to get money from me, but I told her that I wouldn't do anything until I received it. Then she demanded some money from my father because she needed it. It took 2 months to withdraw the money from the stocks. When I didn't give her the money, she asked her sugar daddy, who was my father. My stepdad told me to have him invite her to meet you and get money from you in that hotel so we could expose her again. So now it's time for the final part of our plan. I asked my father to bring her to the hotel where I worked, and I set up spy cameras for her, as well as prepared the divorce papers. My father followed the steps that I instructed him to do. Now it was the day when Linda was going to meet her sugar daddy and get money. My father was already in the room and she came. I was watching from the other room. She said that she can do anything to get money. I thought it was the right time and I headed to the room and knocked at the door. My father opened the door, and when Linda saw me, everything turned upside down for her. The recordings were shown to her, and I explained our plan for exposing them. As she began crying, she apologized profusely and said that she's loyal to me, but it was a mistake because she needs money. But these were lame excuses. I was well aware of her selfishness and all her traps. I don't have any mercy for her because she just loved money and nothing else. I signed the divorce papers and gave them to her. I don't know where she is now. There's just one thing I know: I hate her the most. I don't even want to see her until the end of my life. It's been more than a month. Why do people trust others? How do people make others fool or show their selfishness? I can't believe this and I can't take it anymore. I'm okay within my own circle. I don't need anyone in my life. Now I'm living a very peaceful life.